Hey there neighbors, Kevin here with etrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the etrailer Replacement Shackle Strap. Now if you're looking at shackle straps, you most likely already have an issue and you're just trying to replace something that's already kind of damaged or worn. A quick way of checking that is to simply just come over, see if you can get any play out of your shackle strap. So I'm not getting any rattling here, so I know that this is nice and tight. Something I would want to do maintenance-wise is just once in a while come down and check, make sure that that torque is still set at what it needs to be, so that way I know my suspension isn't going to be wobbling around. Because over time, the shackle strap is going to be the most likely culprit of wear here. So as that starts to wear out, it's going to oval out the hole inside of there, and then our whole suspension is pretty loose. So what ends up happening is eventually something's going to break. And when we get to that point, then it becomes a much larger cost instead of just a simple swap out of our shackle strap.
The easiest way to figure out what kind you need is to simply just measure from center to center of the bolt holes. In our case, we still have our bolts in, so if this actually was up on the trailer, you can still measure it on there as well. And we're just going to take our tape measure, go straight to the center of both, and that's looking like it's right at 2 5/8. So we know that's the replacement we need. And it's as simple as that. Just get that bolt hole to bolt hole measurement. Now, if yours is really worn and you pop off one of the shackle straps and you see the hole has kind of ovaled out, then you got to do a little bit of guesswork there to make sure that you're getting the correct one. For the most part, most of these sizings are pretty different, so it's not like one size might be too close to the other to where you might mix the two up. There are a few where it does get pretty close. In our case, 2 5/8 is pretty close to 2 3/4, so just kind of double check, make sure that you're not overdoing it. If you find that your holes are kind of ovaled out, that's where you'd kind of want to maybe check a different one. Maybe you got one shackle strap on your trailer that's still in decent shape that you could really for sure know that you have a 2 5/8 over a 2 3/4.
So from there, all we need to know is how many shackle straps we're going to be replacing. Now in my case, I replaced the ones that already have the bolts pressed into it, so I had to press those bolts in myself. You can take a vise, or if you had like a chunk of wood that you could drill holes through to set the bolts in, as long as you had enough room for you to sit there and kind of hammer down on them to fully seat those into the shackle strap, you're going to be good to go. But if you don't want to do all that extra work, what you can do is just order this as a complete kit, where it's already going to have those bolts pressed into it. But once again, that's going to be a higher cost, and you are replacing your bolts. So if you were trying to minimize costs, that's where you'd go with just a single shackle strap like what we have today.
So to start off our install, we're going to be lifting up our trailer by the frame, so that way our suspension and our axle can hang free. I do have a jack stand under that side of the axle over there, and I'm going to do the same over on this side, but I'm going to get the tire out of the way to make it a little bit easier to get to. So starting off, let's get that wheel removed. Now at this point, I am going to be removing my hub just because I'm saving this for the next axle that we're going to switch over to, and we're going to be swapping out our leaf springs as well. So we can get through this whole process. I'll skip past this. You guys don't really need to see the hub portion of it just because you wouldn't technically be doing that if you were only replacing your shackle straps. So I'm going to get this knocked out, and then we'll get back on those shackle straps. Now to remove our leaf spring, we are going to need to take out the 2 hanger bolts that are here. In our case, we have shackle straps on one end, and what we're going to need to do is also pop those out. For that, we are going to want to make sure that we have a wrench on the bolt head side. So in our case, they have the bolt head on the inside with the nut on the outside here. We want to make sure that we don't end up letting that bolt spin around on the inside of our hanger, because there's going to be splines that are on that bolt that actually bite in, and once we get it out, you'll see it on the hanger itself. There's little teeth marks in it, and we don't want that spinning. We want that to stay nice and stationary. So keeping a wrench on that and not allowing it to move while you break the nut free is going to be key to saving your hangers here. So I've got my impact on here, and on the bolt head side I'm using 13/16. On the nut side I've got 7/8. That may vary depending on your trailer setup though. This one's pretty loose. shouldn't be able to push that out by hand, but I mean, you can see just how corroded out this bolt is right now. It's all chewed up and the splines are almost gone at this point, so that's probably why it was wanting to spin on me here. All right, if you haven't done so already, make sure that you have your axle supported, because as soon as we take this last bolt out, there's going to be nothing holding up our axle anymore. So I'm going to hit this with my dead blow. And you're going to get to a point where it's probably not going to want to go out anymore. And that's where you could either use another bolt or, in most cases, I'll usually use a punch. And we'll get it out the rest of the way. That does not want to come out, but I think it's because it's leveraging against the shackle strap. Let me pop this one off so we can get this strap out of the way. Both out. So that was what was hanging up on us here. You can see it, the hanger was just resting on it right here and just digging all the way through it. Eventually this would have just cut it off. So we are going to need to seat 2 of our bolts into our shackle strap, so that way we have one fully ready to go and then the other one's just going to come and pop right on it. So to get to that point, normally when you're buying these are going to be in a kit where it's already pressed in for you, so you don't have to do that. But unfortunately for us, since we're only getting the shackle strap here and I'm using some bolts that we just had, I'm going to need to press them in myself. Now I'm going to stick it in a vise, tighten it down, and then just hammer down on it to get it in there. I've got these extra spacers from other installs, like gooseneck installs that we've done, and I'm going to use these just as like a extra stability here, just because our vise is a little bit more rounded and I want this to be nice and flat. So do that, tighten it down, and then we'll just come back with our hammer. And actually, I'm going to throw in the bottom one too. It's going to help with my spacing. Sometimes if you get one of them hammered in more than the other, it'll start to bend the shackle. But if we have both in there, it should allow our bolt to move freely and keep that in line. Now when we look at it, we've got those fully seated in. And I can just pop off my other shackle. There we go. And we can head back over to our suspension. All right, with our U-bolt torqued down, now we're just getting down to the hardware. So I've got my eyelet lined up over here at the front of the trailer. At the back, we're gonna have our shackle straps. I've got that already pressed in. We'll just pop that bolt through, and the one thing I should have shown you, actually, let me pop that back out. Like I talked about before, there's those splines on there that bite into our hanger and prevent the bolt from just sitting there and spinning. Because the only thing we want spinning really is just inside that bushing. We want it to flow back and forth as the suspension compresses and decompresses. You really won't have much spinning up here at the front. If this was a tandem axle, you'd probably have a little bit more movement, but the majority of the movement's going to be back here with our shackle straps. So we'll get this hammered in place. We'll get our nut on the back. And just kind of make sure you don't have any little bit of it sticking out. Looks pretty good to me. So then we can come back with our wrench at the back side here and tighten that down. I'm gonna wait to just snug it down all at once. So I'm gonna come over here. We may have to play around with our jack a little bit, but actually that lined right up perfectly. We'll just... All right, now we'll take our last shackle strap and throw that on. And this should come together a little bit better once we actually tighten it down with our nut here. So now at this point, I'm just going to snug down the bolts, and then I'll torque them to the manufacturer's specs, Manufacturer specs can vary manufacturer to manufacturer, so definitely make sure that you're double checking yours and not overdoing it. If you do overdo it, it's going to end up pinching the hanger down onto the leaf spring or onto the shackle bolts, or shackle straps, sorry. And then the suspension's not going to be able to move back and forth, which is going to end up binding up, and then eventually something's going to give, and that's typically going to be the shackle strap. So make sure that you don't over tighten it. Really make sure you're following those steps from the manufacturer. So. All right, it's getting a little stiff. Now make sure also, if any bolt that's into a hanger, like I said, has those splines bit into it, so make sure that you got a wrench on there and you're not allowing that to move. Now technically this one over here isn't biting into my hanger because it's going into my shackle strap, because that is going to have to move back and forth, but I just find it easier to not have the bolt spin on me at all while I try and tighten down the other nut. So now that our shackle strap bolts are properly tightened down, that's going to do it for our shackle strap install. And all we have left really to do is just reassemble our hub assembly and get our wheel on, tighten down our lug nuts, and then torque them to spec as well. And our trailer is going to be all good to go. Well, that's going to do it for our look at and installation of the replacement etrailer shackle strap here on our utility trailer. My name's Kevin. If you still have some questions about what's going to be the right shackle strap replacement for your specific setup, please feel free to reach out to us via our Ask the Experts link, a comment on this video, or a phone call to our customer service department, and we'd be happy to help you out on your journey.